Hey there, today I'm going to explore some quality third-party content for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. From Kobold Press, we have the Tome of Beasts Volume 2, published in 2020, packed with creatures of all shapes and sizes. I've been planning on including some Mind Flayer videos to update their lore to the spelljamming and planescaping multiverse. Mind Flayers are creepy, brain-consuming psychic slug parasites that transform and take over the host body completely. Each tadpole creates an illythid thrall. They in turn contribute to creating a master or elder brain. This not only vastly improves their research and discovery, but also basically locks those thralls' brains under the dominant elder brain intelligence. Elder brains have been recovering more and more of their lost civilization's dark technology. Each discovery of a ruined lair yields vital information, new leads, and occasionally powerful artifacts and relics of their ancient past, and paradoxically, also their distant future. Fabricators were created in a distant age when Mind Flayer Empire was at its height. They were so powerful they had begun to build their own planets. In the eons that have followed, the Mind Flayers have fallen low, barely avoiding total extinction when their enemies attempted to go back in time to stop them ever evolving in the first place. The Mind Flayers now no longer have an origin story, not in whatever current iteration of the same multiverse this is. The Fabricators look at first glance like some sort of gelatinous cube, but then they're a lot easier to see and appear to be full of some sort of weird internal parts and organs. These structures are only temporary. The Fabricator builds its own collectors, extractors, and extruders like self-contained factories. They are in fact a type of construct composed of millions of minute constructs connected by an intelligence hive mind. Most fabricators were built to aid in the construction of advanced machinery or structures and not normally that aggressive. However, their programming sometimes calls for the disposal of organic life, and they do not hesitate to apply fatal force when necessary. Fabricators make use of whatever materials they can harvest, and constructing various standard types of mining and assembly drones is their first move if they are transported to a new environment suddenly. They carry enough raw materials and microscopic drones to assemble and command 4 Bearing Golems, and we'll talk about them very soon. As constructs, Fabricators and Bearing Golems don't require food, air, sleep, or water. They have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. The Bearing Golem is also resistant to any attacks not made by adamantine weapons. These two types of constructs can't be damaged by poisons or psychic attacks and are immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or knocked prone. The Fabricator has blind sight to 60 feet, sensing nothing beyond that range. They have a passive perception check of 16, so very sensitive to vibration. The Bearing Golems have tremor sense only to 30 feet, but also dark vision to 60 feet, with a passive perception of 13. Neither of them can speak, but they can understand languages, and the Fabricator can learn to communicate by writing on fabricated strips of material. It just coils and scrolls along close to this transparent outer skin before recycling it back inside for more printing. Fabricators have impressive utility. Within at least 10 minutes of work, they can refine raw materials and create entirely new objects. They can be set to harvesting raw hemp plants or giant spider web and churn out neatly coiled, perfectly made coils of hemp or silk rope. A fabricator takes only 1/4 of an hour to turn recycled steel into a fresh and very sharp longsword. It can construct complex components such as clock parts and thieves' tools kits in only an hour, but the finished quality of the items is only as good as the raw materials found or supplied. The breakdown and absorbing of materials is also the Fabricator's best defense, and they have an armor class of 13 and between 84 and 210 with an average of 147 hit points, but I imagine a self-repairing construct like this would almost always have the maximum number of hit points. The creature that touches the Fabricator or hits it with a melee attack while within 5 feet of it takes 1d6 force damage. Any non-magical weapon made of metal or once living materials such as bone or wood that hits the Fabricator is slowly dismantled by its microscopic machines. After dealing a damage, any weapon that strikes the Fabricator takes a permanent and cumulative -1 penalty to damage rolls. If its penalty drops to -5, the weapon is destroyed. Non-magical ammunition made of metal or once living material that hits the Fabricator is destroyed after dealing damage, and at the start of each of its turns, the Fabricator can choose whether this trait is active or not. If pressed to defend itself, the Fabricator can deliver disassembling slam attacks each round. These slam attacks are +8 to hit and have a reach of 5 feet, striking one target for 2d10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage plus 3d6 force damage. A creature reduced to 0 hit points by this attack immediately dies, and its body and non-magical equipment is disassembled and absorbed into the Fabricator. The creature can be restored to life only by means of a true resurrection or a wish spell. The Fabricator can choose to not disassemble a creature or its equipment after reducing it to 0 hit points, if it so chooses. Fabricators may be constructs, but they're very clever, and each one has its own personality. The average Fabricator has a strength of 18, dexterity of 7, constitution of 20, an intelligence of 15, wisdom of 15, and charisma of only 5, so not prone to cracking jokes. However, they can be very intimidating, such as dissolving an adventurer's arm and then spitting back some freshly prepared sausages. You know that isn't pork meat in those sausages. The Bearing Golems are very formidable and make the perfect enforcers and assistants to the Fabricators, able to be transported around inside the Fabricator, keeping fully charged up and increasing the Fabricator's ability to manufacture solid materials. When unleashed, the Bearing Golems appear as a stream of silver ball bearings that quickly form into either a humanoid shape, as the golems have the habit of emulating the form of whatever they're fighting, or that of an attack sphere. Highly mobile, they are deadly at close range. With an armor class of 16 and their previously stated damage resistances, the almost fluid form of the golem has other advantages. While scattered across the ground, they look just like ball bearings, and any creature moving faster than half speed within 15 feet of the golem's position will have to succeed on a DC 15 dexterity saving throw or fall prone. The golem can reform again suddenly from their scattered spread if it still has at least 1 hit point, reforming in any spot with at least 1 ball bearing in it. It doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity doing this, and if it reforms right next to a prone target, it gets to make a slam attack on that creature as a bonus action. The Bearing Golem makes 2 attacks per round, either a slam attack or it can fire off a bunch of ball bearings like a shotgun buckshot. The steel shot is +7 to hit, close range is 30 feet, and the golem doesn't have good vision past 60 feet anyway, so any shots out to 120 feet are basically a Hail Mary. Still, the shots inflict 2d6 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and the ball bearings fired will swiftly return to the golem's mass if they are able to. The slam attacks are for adjacent targets, +7 to hit, and inflict 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage. During combat, the Bearing Golem generates a lot of kinetic energy, with static sparking off loose bearings flying around it on magnetic lines. Roll 1 6-sided die at the start of the round. As a result of either 5 or 6, the Bearing Golem's body explodes. Each creature within 15 feet of the golem must make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw. On a failure, the creature takes a massive 8d8 bludgeoning damage and is knocked prone. On a success, a creature takes half the damage and isn't knocked prone. The golem immediately scatters over that 15-foot area. Note, slam attacks for free. The noise this makes is just like an exploding fragmentation grenade. Oh yes, one last thing. Bearing Golems are +7 on any stealth checks, and in the first round of any combat, the golems have advantage on attack rolls against any creature they have surprised. The Bearing Golem's physical attacks do count as magical, and the golems have advantage on any saving throws against spells and other magical effects, plus any spell that tries to transform them in any way would just fail to work. There is another variant of the ball bearing golem that is constructed out of foot mangling caltrops instead of smooth ball bearings, but they are little differences other than switching out for the damage they do from bludgeoning to piercing, and inflict damage on any who try to move through an area that they're scattered in, inflicting piercing damage as well as knocking creatures prone if they fail their dexterity checks, so just a little bit more severe. Of course, there's nearly unlimited number of crazy and unexpected items and creatures in the lairs of excavated sites of the evil Mind Flayers. I'm looking forward to bringing a lot more of that for you, very handy for games involving planescape or spelljammer, or anything really. Remember, if you have any special requests, particularly on any lore from 4th edition, and if you have any favourite creature from any of Kobold Press's bestiary books, Tome of Beasts 1 and 2, Creature Codex, or any other third-party content, just let me know. No promises, but I do make a lot of requested content. As for the lair of such a creature and its weaponized magnet ball robot goons, Bearing Golems have a strength of 9, dexterity of 18, constitution of 16, intelligence of 8, and wisdom of 12, and a charisma of 3. So the two complement each other almost perfectly. The Bearing Golems will fight until destroyed in order to save the Fabricator. After all, the Fabricator can just make more of them, and golems don't have any sense of self-preservation. Fabricators are highly intelligent, but they are also just ancient machines. They still try to make sense of their corrupted programming, but they're just as likely to be obsessed with turning valuable resources into stacks and stacks of really well-made bedpans, rather than any useful weapons or armor. Also, it may be that Fabricators can self-replicate, though if they do, it's yet to be confirmed. I suspect they do, though. Okay, that's all from me today, short and sweet. My name is AJ Pickett. I make videos about role-playing games, their monsters and their ecologies mainly. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.